population growth. Our population is growing at a rate of 3%. So for as long as our economy is not growing at more than 3%, if you do the numbers, you have the same amount of wealth. Nigerians are relatively going to be worse off. So we need to push this growth. You know, we need to be at 6-7% so that the economy can really expand, to create jobs, to build more schools. We need more schools. We have children every day. More children are being born. We need to engage more teachers. We need health workers. We have to pay for it. All right.
Now, just you'll get your final thoughts along with this question. If VADES is not an event, what happens after VADES?
VADES is not an event. VADES is a window. The focus on tax collection remains. And so the data, yesterday we were analysing data. So for example, now we have what we call second-tier data. People who, by the time we've looked at their names, they're flagged. We have over 130,000. We're ready. From 31st of March, we start. And that's when we'll now be saying, okay, Lagos State, these people did not participate in VADES, and this is the data we have on them. Now, pursue them. And there must be no, I think one of your tweeters said, there can be no sacred cows. There can be no, nobody should be too big or too small, you know, to be told to do the right thing.
Yeah, fine, that's good. That's the sanction regime will kick into effect. But I'm saying, of course, there is no barrier now. You will find, you know, new property class, new members of the property class emerging. People will make more money. Yes. So what happens after the 31st of March? Will it not be that you must on your own step forward to declare? It's for you to explain.
Absolutely, you must do the right thing. There's going to be a continued focus on tax collection. There's going to be a continued focus at every state level on tax collection. People must, as you earn money, a little money, whether moonlighting or day job, pay a portion of it. And so the focus on tax will continue, the focus on tax education. We've trained over 3,000 community tax liaison officers. Their job is to go into the community and make sure people's awareness is very high. Go into schools, teach our kids from the beginning so that before they even become worker, they know that I'm expected to pay tax. So the focus must continue and will continue.
Yeah, they taught us that in civics when we were in elementary school. That's one of the responsibilities of a citizen.
It's to pay
your tax after you earn an income.
All right, thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for your thoughts and time this morning. Very enlightening and very informative. It's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having you join us this morning. All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we've just been speaking to the Honourable Minister for Finance, and that's Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, and she's been talking to the issue of economic reforms and VADES. We'll take a short break now, and of course we have other guests to continue this conversation.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. Every day, 16,000 children under the ages of 5 and thousands of adults die from infectious diseases. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily. In unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilet, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 Cap Full for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid, to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol Sure. Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
You move now. Today disobey traffic law, they cause accidents. Me, I don't talk, say I no go dey do am again because change begins with me.
Let's cross the other side of the road. I will no longer endanger my life crossing the express. Instead, I will use the bridge because change begins with me.
Oga driver, stop this bus now, won't come down. I be one carry me past where they go.
Make her they stop anyhow for road, they cause traffic wahala and accidents. So I go they stop for the right bus stop because change begins with me.
Change Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome back. If you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria. A moment ago, we signed off the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, who spoke extensively on aspects of economic reform, as well as the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VATE. Now, we have other guests who are joining us now to throw more light, as well as, of course, express their opinions, as it were, on issues that are arising from the Honorable Minister's presentation, as well as, of course, matters also relevant to VATE and economic reform. First, at this time, we'd like to welcome the Secretary General of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Dr. Peter Ozo-Eson. Dr. Ozo-Eson, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
All right. And then also here with us in the studios is Dr. Nazif Dharma. Dr. Nazif Dharma is an associate professor of economics at the University of Abuja, regular face on Good Morning Nigeria. Also, of course, the NLC Secretary General. Dr. Dharma, pleasure to have you with us.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. And with us here in the studios is Chukwuemeka Eze. Chukwuemeka Eze always joined us from our Lagos Network studios. So let's welcome him to our Abuja studios this morning. He's of the Faculty of Law at Nasarawa State University in Kefi. Good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you.
It's a lawyer, by the way.
Thank you.
All right.
And from our Kaduna Network Center, we're being joined by Dr. Aminu Usman. He's the HOD Economics, Kaduna State University. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria today.
All right. Well, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Let's begin, shall we say, from the back end, because VATE tended to have predominated our conversation with the Honorable Minister of Finance. I know that Chukwuemeka Eze is also an expert on taxes, on tax laws. And then, of course, we'll take it from there, the other issues arising. Beginning with you, Chukwuemeka Eze, what are your thoughts with regard to the implementation of VATE, as well as the issues that the Minister raised?
I think my thoughts are positive in the sense that the minister has said it all with respect to the expiration of VATE. The expiration date is here with us. But basically, I'm aware that majority of Nigerians will not comply by that date. We are beginning to learn the tax culture. It's still far from us. Our leaders, we need to lead by example. Once our leaders, the elite, begins to pay their taxes, the other elements will just fall in place. So the VATE as it is not new. The tax amnesty program, many other countries have had it. This one is successful, but I think some people have been saying it should not be extended. I'm sure many of those people don't pay taxes. If they do, they won't make those comments because many companies in Nigeria, while we are talking about VATE, you mentioned about Lagos State land use charge. So if a company has made a projection to pay its taxes by March, and suddenly a new tax law is made that will put a lot of financial responsibility on it, basically that company may not want to comply with this again. So I thought that with these VATE, we need to, that window should have been extended to such an extent that no new tax increase, no new rate increase will be done within the next 3 years, so that all the non-compliant entities will now have, in terms of their planning, to know that when they comply with this, they will still have a window to get something out of the system.
Sorry, Mr. Chukwuemeka, I would like you to clarify that. Are you saying that with the enunciation of the VATE policy effective July 2017 up until, shall we say, June or July 2020, there should have been no increases in the rates of currently applicable taxes in Nigeria?
That's not the period of VATE. The period of VATE, what you talked about is ER GP program.
No. I'm saying you are saying that there should have VATES is July to March this year, but are you you were saying just now that there should have been a moratorium on new tax increases. So if that would be a 3-year period, that will run from July 2017 to June 2020. Is that your proposition?
It should have run with the ERPG program. I mean, the VATES
all right,
ought to have run with the ERPG program. Because if you look at the ERPG program...
ERGP.
Yes, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan from 2017 to 2020. That medium-term policy it has been synchronized in such a way that taxation is a major component. So allowing that tax amnesty for 6 months only and returning to what it was before for the remaining 2.5 years. Basically, Nigerians will not use the 6 months to comply completely.
9 months, actually.
Yes.
All right, Chukwuemeka said, thank you very much, Dr. Dama. You are smiling. Fire.
Well, you know, I always have my perspectives that are slightly different from what the government is doing. If you are talking about compliance with taxes, VATES is a very good attempt. But if you want to improve the tax collection, from the meager 6% to the GDP that we have to the realistic emerging economy benchmark of around 15 to 20, 25%, you have to approach tax collection vertically and horizontally. Vertically in the sense that you improve tax collection transparency in the administration of tax proceeds, and then creating awareness about patriotic duty on the part of every single Nigerian or anybody operating in Nigeria to pay his taxes. That is one component. The other component is that we are operating an economy that is just emerging from a recession. We have so much number of our young people that are unemployed, and we are operating what I will call enclave-oriented economic development strategy, where the economic growth is explained by only few sectors, not the economy-wide. Now, the fundamental question to ask is, what do you do within short, medium, and long term to expand the capacity of the economy to produce more and consequently expand the ability of Nigerians and producers within Nigeria to pay more taxes? So that while on one hand, you are optimizing existing collection, on the other hand, you are also expanding the capacity of the economy to produce more. And the reality, as I have said, I am saying, and I will continue to say, is that for an economy of 180 million, with a federal government budgeting 26.3 billion US dollars, with other emerging economies like Indonesia, like India, like Brazil. For example, Brazil is this year budgeting $1.7 trillion, $1 trillion and $7 US dollars at its federal budget. And most of it, as we have said, and will continue to say it, is that the economy, even if the price of oil goes to $200 or even $300, let's say even $300 by chance, what the economy can be able to generate is simply not enough to provide for what we want. But the question is, what are the institutional reforms are we undertaking now in order to attract realistic and volume-oriented investment into infrastructure and real productive activities into agriculture and industry, who have the capacity to increase tremendously the ability of the economy to produce more and therefore generate more income, thereby complementing the governmental ability to improve tax collection horizontally and vertically. All
right, thank you very much, Dr. Nazif Dama. Let's bring in Dr. Zoesong. VATES, what's your thoughts on VATES? And the 9 months is almost over. What do you make of the whole process?
Well, I think that VATES, in terms of conception, is something that is desirable. Okay. Because what you're trying to do is to ensure that we bring into the tax paying nets many people who were outside it, or who were getting out of that net, particularly the high net worth people. And globally, we've been involved in global campaigns on tax justice and also the whole issue of the illicit flows from Africa. And these two things, in a way, tie into VATES. However, I think that there is a degree of overambition, and I think that there is need to scale and target. VATES is not targeted. It is a net that is to gather all the fish, even when they are fingerlings. And if you do that in an ocean, you destroy the capacity into the future of having new fish even in the future. And I think that as good as and as enthusiastic, I listen to the Honorable Minister, you can see she's passionate about it. She's enthusiastic, and that's good. However, I think that more will be gained if you did a targeted thing. Even in public finance analysis, everybody would know that efficiency requires that you also spend your last naira to trying to improve tax that will bring in a one marginal naira at the margin. But if you then go and you're spending hundreds of naira, even at the margin, to now bring in 2 naira, that will not be efficient. So I think that first, the limit of the time, I can understand why you need to say, people need to believe that you are not going to keep shifting the goalpost. And that is why it is important that you stick with the date that you have been given. But having done that, I think that what is crucial for me, I think that going back 7 years or even more, I think is missing the point. What we need to do is to bring a culture of tax compliance. And if you do that and you succeed, even if you do it from the current date without chasing the past, I think that you would have achieved something. I want to see what happens after the terminal dates and whether they have the capacity to prosecute. Because if you do, if they do what they're saying they want to do, you're going to find out most 3/4 or more of Nigerians in tax courts being prosecuted. I don't think they have that capacity. Even if they had the capacity, that is not the way a nation should go. You want to win people into this culture of compliance. Target the high net worth people. Distinguish a little for a given date between assets and income. The assets, of course, constitute a basis for future income. So look at those assets as they exist now and use them to plan the income stream into the future and therefore the income tax that is recoverable in the future. For now, there seems to be a mix-up between targeting assets and targeting income. Assets are a stock as they exist. Income is a flow, and income taxes should target flows.
All right, Dr. Ozoye, so a number of points you've raised, of course, along with Dr. Dama and Chukwuemeka. Let's go over now to Dr. Aminu Usman. Of course, you've seen him from time to time on the screen. He's joining us from our Kaduna Network Studios, and where he's head of Department of Economics at Kaduna State University. Dr. Usman, of course, you've had the benefit of listening now to the 4 guests, the Minister of Finance, and the 3 guests who are here with us in the Abuja studios. Let's have your own thoughts.
I think I would like to start from where Mr. Chukwuemeka has also started, that if we have an economic program for the government that's supposed to run for about 3 years, to 2017 to 2023 or 4 years, then I think the creating of awareness creation and seeking for compliance for tax should also run for some good time. 9 months, I think, is too short. This is a big country. We're talking about 6% of tax to GDP, and we're trying to raise it up to the minimum, which is about 16% for some African countries, and then probably heading towards about 20-25%, like Dr. Dharma said. Then 9 months is enough. I mean, it's not enough to actually get people's compliance. We have this culture of not paying tax, and especially the super rich, like Dr. Ezosen said. So why not actually target the super rich, target their income first, and then create awareness of the local people, the small businesses. This is an economy that is driven by the small scale industry, the small scale enterprises. Now, try to get their buy-in, win them into accepting that paying tax is as good as being a good citizen. Now, and you can achieve that in just 9 months. And I think targeting asset at this point is missing the point, because like Dr. Ozo said, you are targeting stock, stock rather than a flow. Since income is flow, to look at the stream of income that comes and then target income. But I think that the most important thing is the timing. The timing is too short. It has not created the awareness. How many people are even aware that beds opens a window? How many people are even aware that it is a civic responsibility to pay taxes? Now, the majority of the Nigerian economy is in the non-formal sector. And that's a normal formal sector that the government needs to actually bring into the tax net. So I think we need to consider the entire time for VETs, and then create also other avenues, other systems, other strategies for creating awareness to be able to bring the larger majority of the citizens to be paying taxes. I think, yes, the minister is passionate about it, but I also share her own sentiment that, look, shifting the deadline will probably create an impression that, look, government is not very serious. It's not about being very serious. We look at creating awareness and bringing in people, millions of people into tax net, and nobody wants to pay tax ordinarily. People are asked to pay tax. So if people are asked to pay tax, make them to understand the need to pay tax will require much longer time, much longer planning, and thinking outside the box. Yes, 9 months is good time for government to now sit down and say, okay, fine, within this 9 months, what have we achieved? Study the situation, and then propose solutions. Where does it not work well? How do we actually improve the system? One more time, do we need to actually get people to actually accept the fact that, yes, if there are improvement, if there's improvement, then how do we expand the opportunity for people to come in? I mean, even if you look at it in the real sense, the opportunity given by beds is for only 6 months. Because within the 6 months, July to that 1st December, that's when you're not going to pay penalty and interest. Between January and March, you are paying already, you are supposed to pay the liability and also pay interest. You are just allowed an excuse for penalty. I think the time should actually be reconsidered, and then more opportunities should be created so that more people can be brought into the tax net.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Usman. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in again Chukwuemeka Eze. Chukwuemeka, Dr. Ozoeson has raised a number of points, of course, along with Dama and Dr. Usman. But I would like you to speak to this point. Is VETS overambitious? Is the net cast too far afield? Far afield will be on a farm, I believe. Yeah. So water has to cast wide. That will be on the sea. Is it cast too wide? That it brings in all kinds of things, all kinds of fishes, including the fingerlings, as Dr. Ozoeson said. That's one. And secondly, do we have a clear understanding of the distinction between assets and income? Because that's one question I asked the Honorable Minister. Dr. Ozoeson has quarreled with that now, that that there doesn't appear to be some, shall we say, sensible economic distinction between assets and income.
The first question has to do with the basis of ambitious. Now, I think the problem is not really with VETs, because we have been canvassing for tax amnesty. As it has been in various tax jurisdictions, it is one of those phenomena that you encounter in tax administration. We have canvassed it, and we thank God that this country has adopted it. But take it this way. If you start implementing 130,000 already, people are already on your list, you have to build more prisons, since you are talking of criminal prosecution. What is cost of collection? As it is now, the minister ought to have provided data. How much should be spent in hunting after 130,000 people? But if you are giving more time, the number will reduce. You will start hunting after 10,000 people. Now, if you want to pay consultants to start prosecution, do you know how much you pay consultants to prosecute 130,000 people? Do you know how many prisons? You need to expand the prisons to accommodate more people. Now, besides, you will clog the courts. By the time you feed in cases for 130,000 people, in fact, it means that all other cases have to be stopped.
Even if they are special courts.
Even if they are special courts. Then all other cases, and tax appeal tribunal is for civil matters, not for criminal. If you want to prosecute them, you take them to the normal, usual courts. So you will clog the courts, and year after year, some people will be in court for 7 years trying to handle that issue. So I think, whereas it is good to threaten what will happen to people, but it is also good to give all the data that will go with it. Because if, as at today, we have not considered the other, if you use people in the Federal Ministry of Justice and State Ministries of Justice, all the staff of these ministries, they are not in the Directorate of Public Prosecution. So if you have 10 lawyers prosecuting tax defaulters, how far can they go? They have to handle matters arising from corruption, from other fields and all that.
So your issue is not with the VADES itself, good idea, but then the time frame, is that what you have issues with?
That's one time frame. Besides, if you link it with ERGP, you discover ERGP is an integrated program. And since taxation has been integrated into it, you begin to ask yourself that other items in that integration, like energy, if we say by 2018, you will have decreased importation of refined petroleum by 60%. That one is not happening. Some other areas, the Petroleum Industries Governance Bill has not been signed into law. So many other areas, like manufacturing, some of we were thinking of single-digit inflation rate. We are still far from it. The growth factor, IMF has said we are at 0.8%. So we are thinking of going as far as 7%. Since we are still far below in these areas, if you take this one too high, then definitely the system will be.
In other words, there are some of the principles underpinning VADES would appear to be at a tangent to the core principles enunciated in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Chukwuemeka is a thanks, but the question I asked you, one of the questions I asked, I would like Dr. Nazif Dama to take it up. That's to say, have we made, as Dr. Ozoeson said, is there an economic sense in the distinction between assets and income? And if we appear to have missed it under the VADES conceptualization, can the government, can the authorities back up and then seek to make this distinction going forward?
Well, you know, generally, as any public financial economist know, if you are trying to collect taxes on an existing asset that doesn't have income flow, you are only chasing shadows. But if you are targeting income tax collection on a definite income flow from an activity, whether it is an asset, sale of property, sale of intellectual property, or whatever, that is a realistic targeting of taxation. Now, as I have said earlier, the problem that we have in the country is not just about the need to collect taxes. Literally, all my colleagues that have spoken have re-emphasized this fact, and we also need to re-emphasize this fact. Nigeria is an emerging economy. the formal sector of this economy does not constitute up to 50% of the total value of goods and services called GDP that we are producing. A significant proportion of all those that are in business are small scale and they operate in the informal sector. The question is, what is the government doing to indulge patriotic compliance on the part of those individuals in order to pay taxes, which will go a long way in improving voluntary compliance and hence reducing the cost of collection in terms of prosecution and others. But fundamentally, which I want Nigerians to really think and let us think as a team out of the box. This is an economy that is extremely import dependent. Sometimes I tell my students, including the blood of Nigerians is imported blood. Because if you do a very simplistic analysis of what we eat, before the coming of this administration, significantly most of what we eat is produced outside the country. Now, if we want to improve tax collection, we must be able to redirect our economic policy making and implementation toward improved domestic production of goods and services that we require with targeted achievement with clearly defined time period. For example, if we are, for example, importing 60–70% of what we require, what is the policy direction now? What are the incentives? What is the policy framework so that by the year 2020, let us reduce our importation by 20 or 30 or 40% because it's not something you can achieve overnight. Right. That is one. Number two, if you look at the direction of the economic reform and growth program, which I have said and I will continue to say, is that it is a mere policy pronouncement. It is not an actual plan. When we have a medium-term plan, the plan must encapsulate projects and programs that are fully costed. And those projects and programs, if they are fully costed, they must reflect cost reality in Nigeria. And I have said previously that we need to have clear patriotic conversation about the cost of public financial projects in Nigeria, particularly capital projects. Nobody in his right economic senses will be bringing money into Nigeria to invest in our infrastructure in the present cost of infrastructure costing that is very ambiguous, that is undefined.
All right, Dr. Nazif Damar, that's the much we can take from you right now. We're almost out of time. Let's get the closing thoughts of Dr. Peter Ozoison. What should be the target and how should the sensitization be done very briefly?
Well, I think that I would want a situation in which this is targeted. First, it can be phased. Okay. Start and target high net worth individuals. I would want to see a situation in which you are not going so far back. You want to start and get people to start to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And then you do that and hope when that has achieved, you can gradually broaden the net. That would be my view. In terms of sensitization, I think that there is a lot of campaigns and sensitization that need to be done. Citizens in this country have had a long history of the absence of quid pro quo, which is the fundamental basis of tax. I will give you my tax in understanding that you will provide me services. Nigerians have had so much of their resources taken without the return. And therefore, you need to gradually build this understanding, this culture, and then we'll be able to move forward.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Peter Ozoison. Let's finally, very, very briefly, Dr. Aminu Osman, how do you think this whole process can actually be streamlined or targeted in such a way that it can get the desired result?
I think the policy per se, well, like everybody said, is a very good policy. But timing and has to be increased significantly. And then secondly, the sensitization has to be improved. Other strategies has to be brought in to ensure that as many people as possible have become aware of the consequences of refusing to be in the tax net, so that people will voluntarily begin to see that they will factor in taxes into their own planning. And I think what the government is doing is already has started doing long ago. It's also good that anybody that wants to do business with government must show evidence of paying taxes. That has to be re-emphasized. And then people should be made to understand that it's actually a criminal offense to not to pay tax. Right now, people don't even pay tax as anything, as an offense to the nation. And the government also needs to show some commitment in terms of keeping its own side of the promises or other aspect. Because most time when you talk to the ordinary people, they'll tell that, look, when I provide my electricity, I provide my water, I provide my security, I provide my roads, everything. So why should anybody ask me to come and pay taxes? So this is part of the problem. There should be some commitment on the side of government of keeping fidelity with the people as far as infrastructure provision, as part of security provision, and then asking people to actually make their own commitment. So I think the government should look at it from its own economic program, and also see it from the part of it is keeping its own commitment to the people, so that as you are creating awareness, you are also showing people that this is what your money is being used for. Even though you don't have the right to challenge the government to tell you what to do with the tax money, you just have to pay because the law requires that you pay. But all the same, there's a moral burden on the government to also show that, look, when we collect this money, we're not just splitting it, we're just allowing some crooks to steal them. We are going to use them for the real development of the country. Thank you.
Very much, gentlemen, for your contribution, for your thoughts and time this morning. Dr. Aminu Usman, he's the head of the Department of Economics, Kaduna State University. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. And also a very big thank you to Nazif Damar from the University of Abuja. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Chukwuemeka Eze is of the Faculty of Law, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. Thank you very much, Mr. Eze, for coming on the program.
And
finally,
just before we leave the subject matter, there are a number of other tweets that have come in. Of course, these are matters arising that will be taken up. We have Ifeanyi Chukwu Oladele Olisa, who tweets. He says, "How would you reconcile withholding tax and personal income tax? I pay withholding tax. Do I also need to pay personal income tax?"
All right, that's the only tweets that we can take right now. And finally, a very big thank you to Dr. Peter Ozoeson. That's the Secretary General, the Nigerian Labour Congress. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. All right, so that does it for our first topic. Earlier, we had indicated that we'll be going over to Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is having its elections, and our correspondent, Abdul Malik Adio, is right there. You can see him on the screen now. Abdul Malik, so we're bringing you in the tailpiece of the program today, but give us a sense of what is unfolding ahead of the elections in Sierra Leone. The elections are taking place tomorrow, by the way.
Yes, it is taking place tomorrow. Many thanks, Kingsley and Rhoda. Right now, it's pretty much palpable. Everybody's going around their business and very much peaceful. So far, so good. We had a couple of interactions local here, very much a couple of challenges that are actually worrisome regarding security, talking about public trust in the judicial system, and citizens are still actually talking about voters' sensitization of the national electoral commission. They have said that it's not adequate enough. Though significant number of people, collected their voters. But National Electoral Commission is being another position. You have your ID, you have your ID card, you have your national ID card, you have your international passport.
All right. Unfortunately, the audio connection to Abdul Malik in Freetown, Sierra Leone, is pretty poor. We apologize for that, but we do hope that in the course of his assignment in Sierra Leone, we'll be able to get him on Good Morning Nigeria. Abdul Malik Adio, well, I would like to appreciate you for coming on. As we said, unfortunately, we can't hear you clearly. Let's go over now to our complimentary segments. We'll look at sports.
Paris Saint-Germain will attempt to overturn a 3-1 deficit when they host Real Madrid in their Champions League last 16th second leg on Tuesday, but do so without the injured Neymar. The world's most expensive player is recovering from a foot operation in Brazil. Yet, the French club remain hopeful they can overcome the defending European champions and advance to April's quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp ruled out making wholesale changes when Porto visit Anfield. Also tonight, despite holding a massive 5-0 lead from the first leg of their Champions League last 16 tie. In Wednesday's fixture, Manchester City will host Barcelona at the Etihad Stadium, just as Juventus travel to Wembley to battle Tottenham.
Premier League weekend comes in South East London, where they are.
Manchester United beat Crystal Palace 3-2 on Monday night, with Nemanja Matic scoring a stunning injury time winner to complete a majestic comeback for Jose Mourinho's side. Palace's last league win over United came in 1991, but goals from Andros Townsend and Patrick Van Aanholt seemed to have put the host in a commanding position. However, United came roaring back in the second half as Chris Smalling, Romelu Lukaku and a 30-yard dipping volley from Matic made it United's night.
Matic! Well, if you're going to win a game!
The result sees United move back into second place above Liverpool, who they are set to face on Saturday, while Crystal Palace remain in the relegation zone. And in tennis, multiple Grand Slam winner Serena Williams should be match fit and ready to time for the French Open in May. According to her coach Patrick, Williams is preparing to make her much-anticipated comeback to the WTA Tour following the birth of her first child in September.
Let's join the Nigerian Meteorological Agency for the weather outlook.
You're welcome. I am Onyilo Desmond. We appear to be warming up for another round of rains in the coming days, which will extend as far as parts of the extreme north. As we move into Tuesday, increased cloudiness is expected over the south, extending to the central states and some northern cities. This should give way to prospects of thunderstorm activities, which should affect the coast, much of the south and the central states, extending to parts of Taraba, Adamawa, Bauchi, southern Yobe, Jigawa, Kano, Kebbi states, and Zaria. Widespread activities, though not necessarily intense. I leave you with the temperature forecast.
All right, that's it on Good Morning Nigeria today, where the economy has been our focus. We thank you so much for joining us. God willing, we'll be back again tomorrow morning at 7. I'm Rhoda Anonam. Thank you for watching. And
I'm Kingsley Osadola. I join Rhoda in also thanking you for tuning in today. Do enjoy the rest of your day.